This video covers an incident that happened in 2011 in Venezuela when the TV station Globovision was fined $2 million for their reporting on a prison riot. The Globovision's 24/7 cable news network, and there was, in fact, a prison riot at a prison just outside of Caracas, and they were fined for their reporting on that riot. So the U.S. State Department issues reports on human rights practices around the world. In fact, it's required by Congress, and the reports are issued for 196 nations. And the reports for 2011 were issued in 2012. And here's what the State Department had to say about that incident in Venezuela. The government used its authority to censor Globovision. The fine represented censorship. And the Globovision was known to be very critical of the government, and that's why they were censoring it. And they imposed this fine of $2 million for its reporting at the El Rodeo Penitentiary, which was just outside of Caracas. And so we're going to take a look as to whether or not this designation by the State Department is, in fact, fair. So here is a summary of the prison standoff. It lasted for almost a month, where rioting inmates took 1,000 other inmates captive and hostage, and National Guard troops surrounded the prison. That was a standoff for almost a month. Now, being very close to Caracas, a lot of relatives of prisoners came out to check on their relatives who were, in fact, being held hostage. And there were sounds of gunfire coming from the prison. Fires had broken out. It was it looked like a very dangerous situation. So here is Globovision's coverage of the riot. The TV network ran the same video of distraught relatives 269 times in 4 days. That was the dominant narrative that the station was putting out. People were distraught. People were distraught. They added a soundtrack of machine guns being fired. Machine guns weren't being fired at the prison or by the National Guard. Globovision added that soundtrack again to create this drama of what was going on. And to fan the fires, Globovision did not run any coverage of what the government was doing to resolve the crisis. So it created a lot of anxiety among the people. Globovision reporters actually encouraged families to come out and protest in front of the National Guard. Reporters at the station claimed that members of the National Guard had massacred prisoners. And so a lot of distraught people came out and they confronted the National Guard and yelled at the National Guard for what they were doing. Well, how was it resolved? Well, after almost 4 weeks, the situation was resolved with all of the hostages being released. The government had carried out extensive dialogue with the rioters, and they denied basic necessities like water and food. And basically, the rioters gave up, and nobody was harmed or killed. So the National Commission of Telecommunications, CONATEL, conducted a 4-month investigation of Globovision's coverage. And they have a social responsibility committee, and they voted unanimously to fine Globovision $2.2 million. So here, the CONATEL director, Pedro Maldonado, said what Globovision had done was to violate 2 articles of the law of social responsibility because they deliberately sought to create a situation of uncertainty and anxiety within Venezuela to create civil unrest. That's the interpretation of the Telecommunications Commission. This was a deliberate situation of anxiety created by their coverage of the riot. Now, the vice president of Globovision, Carlos Zuluaga, he rejected that request, and then the Supreme Court rejected his statement, saying that you're going to have to pay this fine. Zuluaga said that the station would not pay the fine until it had exhausted all of its legal appeals. And the Supreme Court said, well, we're going to seize over $5 million of your assets until you pay the fine. And so the station paid the fine in 2012. So the question is we're left with was it censorship as claimed by the State Department, or was in fact the station simply fined for creating this panic situation with its one-sided coverage of the riot? So the Venezuela Reader has a blog, and there is a post on the blog, a written write-up of the of this incident, and it documents all of the sources that were used.